Kat.
I'm Arden 13.
Welcome to our show, World Tiger.
Building Dragon.
Today we are continuing with some of WorldAnvil's summer camp prompts.
Summer camp is a program set up by the WorldAnvil team to promote the community as well as world building in general.
There'll be a total of 33 prompts all throughout the month of July, so if you're looking to win some prizes for your submissions, don't miss out.
WorldAnvil is a free in-browser tool that has everything that a world builder would ever need.
They also have some pretty incredible subscription options.
Totally affordable, totally worth it. If you're interested, please go check them out. But in any case, I think it's time we got to the prompt. What is the prompt?
Today we have to describe a valuable historical or ancient artifact from our world.
Ooh. So basically what I did yesterday?
A bit.
I promise I will do better. I promise I will do better. What world are you going to use?
Theatrim, and then you?
I think I'm going to use Nora for this one. We are giving ourselves a couple parameters. We each have 30 minutes to complete the prompt.
Each of our submissions have to be at minimum 300 words.
Not including the vignette.
Not including the vignette.
But after the 30 minutes, we will come back together and share what we came up with.
Some of our best ideas do come from collaboration.
Absolutely. Now let's get through this.
Time to skip!
So, 30 minutes later. What do we got?
So, I'll admit, I had struggled with this one a little bit. I'm not quite sure. The first 10 minutes, I was kind of, sort of trying to figure out what I wanted to write about. But I got there. But I'll have to go back and edit because I did not reach our 300 minimum word count. But yes, I wrote about a series of chains that are so powerful that they can hold any god together. So,
any god together? Like
No, like they can bind any
just
god.
bind
Like
any
they can
god.
bind anything.
Okay.
The only thing it cannot bind would be Tiede and Fruvnus, because they're a little different. I'll explain why. So what brought about the end of the Old Age, which I talked about I think a bit in the last video, was
briefly you mentioned the Old Age.
The this event called the Surge. Basically, a goddess called Isadora raised the floods of the ocean and just flooded all of Theatrim and ruined everything. So in order to stop her vengeance and ravaging the world, all of the gods got together to create a series of chains that would bind her to one of the moons in Theatrim. In order to do so, no normal chains would work, so they took a metal, which I will come up with a word for later, and as well as the bones and blood of all of the gods of Theatrim, and fused it together to make this series of chains that can bind her. How this comes into play in my world.
That can bind Isadora.
Yes.
Okay.
Or any god.
I have questions.
Okay.
Please continue.
Okay. Through that, though, as they tried to bind her to one of the moons, a piece of the chains fell into the oceans of Theatrim, and that is how they came into the world. They were found and kind of like confiscated in one of the countries, and they're kind of hidden away for maybe later purpose.
Maybe later purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, so my first question is you said it took the blood and the bones of every god in Theatrim.
Yes.
So are we talking about... She's talked to me a little bit about Theatrim, so I know a little bit. So are we talking like... did every god, like, give a bone? Like...
Yes.
They just get... Here's a bone
yes.
of mine. Like, just... Okay,
Blood
willingly.
and bone, yeah.
Blood and bone? Okay. There's a chant that I could say with that one, but I'm going to hold my peace. Okay. Interesting. That's gnarly. Bottom line, that's gnarly. Okay, cool. You already heard, the weird thing is, I kind of find this interesting because of the prompt from yesterday. We're talking about the items this time around, but last time we had to come up with the myth. So I appreciate the fact that I don't think either of us did this, that we didn't... You could have very easily just talked about the Fang of Fruvnus and the Talon of Tiede.
I could have, yeah.
It's switched, isn't it? It's the tooth of Tiede and the Fang of Fruvnus.
Yes.
I pay attention.
We'll get there.
I really... I admire you for not doing that and doing something completely different.
I wanted to try and change it up, but I think in the end I probably would have written more about the Talon and the Fang, but wanted to flesh out the world a little bit more.
Absolutely.
So.
Where did the inspiration for these chains, like, come from? Like, how did you get to... I know for you, your process is far different from mine, so I'm just curious about how you came to... I'm gonna need chains that bind a god.
It came from... I knew that I had Isadora basically ruining Theatrim to bring about this newer age, and I needed a way for her to stop flooding the world.
So is Isadora like a current, even in the New World, is she still a presence?
She is... could almost call it like a fallen god or a lost god, not worshipped in any stretch of the imagination, not really talked about, kind of... I mean, she's the mother of werewolves and sirens, so, I mean, I guess they kind of talk about her, but...
Those are two very different things.
I know.
Every time you say anything, I get really interested. Good lord. Okay. What part about the writing of this? I know you had mentioned when we were like back and forth writing that you were kind of interested in some of the exemplary prompts that they have.
Yeah.
What were your favorites?
Going through, I think what I really liked is that they had a section all about construction, like what are some of the materials and components? What tools were used to make these items? The manufacturing process, and that's where I kind of got the fun part of like, okay, that's the manufacturing process of like using, you know, the god's blood and bone to kind of get the chains infused with the god's essence, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
They also had this whole section about categorizing the items. So if I made maybe a different item that also had the power to maybe not bind gods, but also like injure the gods specifically, I could add on here a model or a subtype that would kind of categorize the two together. So if I needed easy access to be like, oh, I really need an item that can injure a god,
I need all my anti-deity level phantasms.
And you can just easily look that up, and then there'll be your list of all your
That's really cool.
items.
Yeah. You did it to me. I'm starting to say yeah. Darn it. So
that's all I wrote for mine. I like I said, I struggled a little bit at the beginning there, but
did you get anywhere with like the rarity? I know I got into the rarity, the forging process, the construction process was something that I went into.
For me, because there's only one set of chains ever created, that was kind of hard to be like, there's only one. It's extremely rare. And then they also have an option where it's like base price. It's like, can't really put a price on this one. Like
Sure. And I think that goes along more or less with the fact that we're writing. The prompt is us talking about like an artifact of some kind. Like I ran into that too, and with the artifact, I was like, these are priceless.
Right.
Like you can't. There's nobody could buy this. If you're buying it, then clearly
something's wrong.
Something is very wrong. But no, I really like the way that they did that, and I think you had a better opportunity with your specific item to utilize the base price, the size, the weight, the width, and stuff like that, because you've just got the chains, and that's a massive piece in and of itself.
Right.
And I think I hope that you really enjoyed actually being able to
once I got into it, it was great, but it's just sometimes, you know, especially writing or world building or whatever you're doing with your art, sometimes it's hard to just get that first push. Once you're going, it's great, but it's that initial start that
white page syndrome.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I totally get that. Now, when you were talking about this, I want to ask where your inspiration for this came from, because whenever somebody to me talks about chains that bind a god in literature, my mind immediately goes to Melkor. Like, that dude got bound twice.
Right.
So, did you have any other inspiration that draw from this, or just kind of like...
Honestly, not really. I really just wanted something that could bind a god, and then for a piece of it to fall into Theatrim specifically for later use, in case someone needed to bind a god.
Bind a god again.
I mean, you might... Who knows?
So then me thinking from kind of a gaming perspective as well, obviously these would have the ability to bind a god, but also from a storytelling perspective, you already mentioned that a city, like some country already has these chains and they're like kept away. Is it basically like this can bind a god and everything below?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Spicy.
Yeah. And like I said, the only thing that they wouldn't be able to bind would be Fruvnus or Kidal, because dragon bone would be different than the bone of the deities.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
We don't need to get into all that.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. I think it
Okay.
would be we could be here all day.
Sure. Fair enough.
I'm more interested in what yours were.
Okay. So, last time I used Elacrid, this time I used Nora. I have a few worlds on WorldAnvil, and I just have a few worlds that I've been working on in different stories and stuff like that. Trust me, it might be great for this situation, but in terms of, like, my sleep schedule, it's not great. So what I did with Nora is, I've kind of talked to you about Nora in the past, but for our lovely audience, Nora is a world that does not have gods and was told to make do with demons. Is kind of the quote that I use whenever I describe Nora. But its big thing is that there was the Dark Age. There was this age of tyranny, this age of uncertainty, because the world was ruled by these 8 greater demons. And these 8 greater demons, the detail that I have in here, did what 8 greater demons do. They took what they want, they destroyed what they want, they had power and they used it. They were tyrannical in many aspects. Then one day, this mysterious individual, known as, that it only as ever referred to as Forge, appeared on Nora. The world, the planet is called Nora, by the way. Mother Nora to the common folk. Anyway, Forge appeared and basically said, hey, you're having these problems with these 8 greater demons. If you do this thing for me, if you do me this favor, I will craft you the means in which to destroy them. So he crafted these 8 blades, one for each of the 8 greater demons, and after he crafted them, they were given to 8 champions. The champions went off, felled the demons, and the blades, because they were spell-crafted, they're magical in nature. What they didn't realize is, what the champions didn't realize is that when they cut into the demon, they basically were not just like cutting into the demon and wounding it, they were stealing its essence. So when they struck the final blow, they basically stole all of the essence from this demon and took it into the blade.
Got it.
Which caused the blades to hyper-transform into the visage of the fang of the beast that they just slew, giving them the name the Fang Blades. I came up with this idea back when I was in 6th grade, so apologize the edge on it. But yeah, so I talked about the Fang Blades, talked about the significance of the fact that there are 8 of them, one for each of the greater demons that was slain. One for each of the 8 greater demons that was slain. They have, as I was saying, they kind of stole they stole the essence of the demon. So there's kind of like this thing going on, at least rumors and myth surrounding the Fang Blades, that like some of the common folk are like celebrate the Fang Blades because they are the things that slew the demons and let them live a prosperous life. But there are other folk who believe that the essence of the demon that's trapped in the blade is like sickening the minds of the wielders.
Oh.
So there's like this weird dichotomy where people look at the people who carry the Fang Blades are called the Fang Bladers. Again, 6th grade
Yay.
edge. Get over it. They look at them and some of them see them as heroes. Others, understand what legacy they carry but are wary of them because they think that the demons are talking to them and they have demon powers and stuff, which is not entirely wrong. Just a thing. So you got to use a lot more of the, the weight, the width, and so on and so forth.
Right. Well, because I was only talking about, one specific item. Yours is, an item set.
Yeah,
almost.
as a set of 8. So, and I couldn't, talk about the width or the weight of them or whatever because it's the whole kind of like Mjolnir situation. Only the worthy can pick up the blade, or only the one that the blade is chosen can wield it. So the weight is don't
try it.
Don't even try it. With the length, so like the eight greater demons are based on animals that we have in our world, with the exception of one, which is a dragon. So we've got like a snake, a bat, a dragon, a lion, a lizard, a eel, and a shark, and I am missing one right now. The wolf. So when they felled those creatures, the blade took the visage of their fangs, so like they're all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
I think at one point they were all the same shape and size, but it has since changed.
Right.
I liked the idea. I really went in depth with the crafting, the construction part, because again, this is kind of feeding more into lore. Nobody knows who Forge was. Nobody has any idea. He appeared one day and then was gone the next, after like the demons were felled. And I put in a little blurb here, basically how master craftsmen offered their services and they were turned away. The materials that were used was a ton of raw materials of such things as iron, coal, mercury, and sulfur. And a bunch of other elements that I feel like I should throw in as well. Try to look into my demonology history knowledge, and was like, what else can kill demons? Oh, salt. I should probably throw that in there. But then after, the thing that I liked that I added was that after Forge created these blades in the smith that was built for him in a secret location, that location was completely destroyed and dismantled, and all the materials that were used to create the smith and create the blades were just scattered. Right. So they
can't make any more.
They can't make any more. They will never be the like again. And so this kind of goes into what I mentioned earlier about the Fang Blades, where there's people that see them as heroes, other people are wary of them. The same can be said about Forge. Not necessarily because they think that he consorted with demons or anything like that, but it was just this guy who showed up, gave us these weapons, and then left. Right. And nobody has been able to find him since.
What I'm noticing about both of ours, as far as world building in general, we both have different styles of how we world build, but both of us went back to some sort of lore. It wasn't just, let's create an item that we like, or let's, just create some historical artifact. We still added in the historical basis, and just kept going back into that storytelling, just telling more and more through our story, even if it's just some chains, or I don't know. I really like yours, even though it's demons. I
really like yours. Besides, I mean, I know that it is a completely different situation, but I always am, whenever I am told about a god being chained up, I am always imagining that image that's floating around the internet somewhere of little Melkor with his crown that's been twisted into a collar around his neck, and then chains just all over him. And he's like, I lost! And it's just, I find that humorous, but I also find the way that you connect a lot of your folklore and a lot of your mythology. Your mythology, the stuff that you have written, the stuff that you have told me about, is something that I would have read in 6th grade. Right. I would have loved to have continued to read in 6th grade.
But yeah, that's all I got for today. I'm going to keep writing it, but...
I'm going to do a little bit more here on the significance. I didn't realize how the format would be.
I do kind of like that format, though, where it, all of the specific, the weight, or the current holder, or the rarity, it's kind of on the side.
Oh, absolutely. But with all of this, all of this blocks of text, it kind of, the way that it's shifted, the way that it kind of works in the format that WorldAnvil gives us here, the sidebar content of the weight and the price and so forth is more narrow, but it's longer than the actual content of the text. So I want to go back and work a little bit more with significance, and I'm sure there's another article that actually gets posted here in this big bit, so I'll work with that. It's also finding, the ways to really flesh it out and feel your wild oats on this one. I actually have a question. I know you already said you were done, but I actually had a question. Was there any part of this that you came up with as you were writing?
Definitely. So I already knew that I had the chains, and I already knew where they were in my world. I hadn't actually fleshed out like how they were made,
Okay.
and that's something that when I got down to the construction tab, I was like, I didn't even think about that. Like, what would be in the chains that could hold a god? Like, how would that work? And so when it came to materials and components, tooling, the manufacturing process, I definitely got more inspiration as I wrote, which is always nice to kind of like, they're giving us the big prompts for the summer camp, but then throughout, as you explore through WorldAnvil, it's almost like they're giving you more prompts and more things to think about and talk about.
No, that was what I was curious about, because I've known what the Fang Blades are for the longest time, and I know who Forge was, but I had nothing written down about the forging process. I had nothing written down about the materials and the components and about like the master smiths or anything like that. That was just something that I had like come up today while I was writing that, and I was curious because I like how WorldAnvil can really pull that out of you.
Right.
And really make you think.
Like, oh, I didn't think about that. How does that work?
The dietary habits of dwarves.
It's important.
It is important.
But yeah, I mean, that's all I got today.
That is all I have today. Thank you so much for joining us.
If you enjoyed today's video, please consider hitting all those buttons that everyone else bugs you about.
And go check out WorldAnvil if you're interested.
You guys have been awesome. I'm Kat.
I'm Arden13. I'm still waiting on that ramen.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.